Hey, it's Mark Lanier with your video thought of the day. All right, news flash. I've never been pregnant. If you ask me what labor pains are like, I can only tell you as a keen observer. Because after all, I had 5 kids. I just didn't have the 5 kids, but I was there watching. And I can tell you that labor pains start out and you're not quite sure if they're labor pains or real or fake or whatever. And gradually they become real clear that they're labor pains, and they really, really seem to hurt. And I say that because without question, an epidural seems to be a medical miracle. Now, many of you women out there may have had childbirth with no epidural, au naturel. God bless you. Many of you women have had epidurals, and I'm sure you would agree with me, it seems to be an amazing medical tool. Now, if you were going to speak in Hebrew, biblical Hebrew, about labor pains, you would use a form of the verb chayal. And that this is a verb that's used for labor pains. Chayal is the word. Now, why is that important? Because I've been studying the minor prophet in the Old Testament, Joel. It's just 3 chapters, but there is some great picture image and language image lessons packed in this 3 chapters. And I mentioned one of my verses yesterday that I looked at, but today I want to talk about Joel chapter 2, verse 6. Now, I was talking about the context of this army that's coming. It's actually a swarm of locusts that's coming, that's going to devastate the land and devastate the people. And Joel, the prophet, in verse 6 of chapter 2 says, before the locusts, the army, peoples are in anguish. All faces grow pale. Now, anguish is a translation of that Hebrew word chayal, labor pains. The idea is that when there is trouble brewing, and it seems unavoidable trouble, and it can be life-altering trouble. It can be trouble that is going to cause great anguish. And certain things in this world do that very thing. Then it's almost like these labor pains, the anguish that's experienced. Oh, it starts out gradually, or it could start immediately, but the intensity of it is severe. And absent an epidural, there's not really much you can do with labor pains. They are there, and you just have to endure them. But fortunately, Scripture teaches that there's a spiritual epidural for the pains we face in this world, for that anguish that we have. That spiritual epidural is nothing less than the touch, the presence of the living God. Now, when we're faced with labor pains of anguish, or even false labor pains of anguish that aren't the real deal, you don't really need to be worried, you just are. This spiritual epidural is available. It is Psalm 23. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, or maybe a better translation, through the dark valley. The valley that's so dark, it's death, it's oppressive, it's anguish, it's labor pains. I will not fear, because you, God, are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. See, God doesn't abandon those who experience anguish. God seeks to embrace them. He comes to their rescue. Now, it doesn't mean always solving their problems with a wave of the hand. Sometimes it means holding their hand and giving them the strength and endurance to make it through those problems. But He walks with us through our travail. All we need to do is seek his presence. So that's your spiritual epidural through labor pains video thought for the day. I'll see you again tomorrow.